Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving right in to crack the code of one of the most debated and honestly mysterious texts in human history, the Book of Revelation. We aren't just going to skim the surface of all that intense apocalyptic imagery either. We're going deep into its hidden architecture. By leaning entirely on the text's structural layout, specifically those triads of angels, the ancient offices of priest, prophet, and king, and the faces of the cherubim, we're going to completely reframe this ancient mystery. If you've always thought Revelation was just this chaotic sequence of wild visions, well, prepare to see it as a flawlessly engineered matrix.
So here's our roadmap for this investigation. First, we'll map out biblical triads and patterns. Then we'll explore those ancient roles of priest, prophet, and king. From there, we'll apply all of that to the strong and other angels, pinpoint the central prophetic angel, and finally reveal Revelation's overarching cherubim structure.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Biblical Triads and Patterns, the Code of Threes. You know, to actually grasp the end of the book, we've got to go back to the beginning. So we're starting our code breaking with the absolute foundational cipher of the Bible, which is the literary use of threes.
But before we decode Revelation itself, let's quickly define our terms. There are two structural concepts you absolutely need to know for reading these ancient texts. First up is a triad. Basically, that's just a set of three connected figures that operate together to tell a larger story or perform a unified action. The second is a chiasm. Now, think of a chiasm as a mirrored literary sandwich. You read A, B, C, and then you mirror backward to B and A. The really cool part? The most crucial linchpin information is always sitting right there in the center, at the C level. Both of these devices are vital keys for unlocking this ancient text.
And this triad pattern? It repeats endlessly throughout biblical history. Look at the Genesis era. Abraham is visited by three men, Yahweh and two angels. While Yahweh stays to talk, the two angels head off to Sodom to protect Lot. Then move to the Exodus era, and you've got Moses being supported by Aaron and Hur during battle. Jump to the Kingdom era, and Solomon's temple features these two massive pillars guarding God's throne. And finally, in the prophetic era, Zechariah has this vivid vision of a lampstand fed by two olive trees right beside the master of the earth. The pattern here is literally undeniable. You always have a central divine or prophetic figure flanked by two supporting figures.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, Priest, Prophet, and King, the Divine Blueprint. Let's see exactly how these triads build a highly functional structural blueprint based on those ancient offices.
This whole concept is brilliantly illustrated in Exodus chapter 17. During an attack, Moses, the prophet, sits centrally on a stone. It's almost like a miniature mountaintop throne, right? His uplifted arms form this double prophetic witness reaching up to God. But as he gets tired, he's physically supported on one side by Aaron, who represents the priesthood, and on the other side by Hur, who comes from the kingly tribe of Judah. Notice the specific layout here. You have the prophet right in the center, flanked by the priest and the king.
And we see this exact same layout in Solomon's temple. Here, the physical throne of God is guarded by two freestanding pillars. One pillar, Jachin, represents the priest. The other pillar, Boaz, which is actually David's family name, represents the king. So once again, we've got the king and the priest standing on either side of God's central throne, holding it up and guarding its door. Priest, prophet, and king. Make sure you keep this cipher locked in your mind, because we're going to need it.
Okay, Section 3, Strong and Other Angels. Applying the cipher to Revelation. Armed with our historical cipher, let's turn to the Book of Revelation itself and decode these two distinct triads of angels. So the text presents a triad of what it calls strong angels in chapters 5, 10, and 18. The first one acts as a priestly guard. The third one casts this massive stone to destroy Babylon, which is a distinctly kingly work. Now this triad perfectly correlates with the second set, a triad of other angels. The source material identifies these other angels as representations of Jesus Christ himself, carrying out matching duties. Just like those strong angels, this unified figure of Christ seals the saints, brings the eternal gospel, and executes kingly destruction.
The absolutely crucial point here is how these three other angels, which we now understand represent Christ's unified work, move through very specific chronological steps. Step 1, the angel ascends from the sun rising to seal the saints. That's a priestly function of guarding. Step 2, the angel flies right in mid-heaven to announce the eternal gospel. That's a central prophetic work. And step 3, the angel descends with great authority to destroy Babylon, fulfilling that kingly role, ascending, flying in mid-heaven, descending, priestly, prophetic, kingly. See how that lines up?
Moving on to Section 4,
the central prophetic angel, Revelation's linchpin. This brings us to probably the most complex piece of the puzzle, identifying that central prophet figure that holds everything together, just like Moses up on that mountain.
Remember our definition of a chiasm from earlier, that mirrored structure where the center holds the absolute key? Well, look at how Revelation chapter 14 utilizes this. We get this perfectly mirrored sequence, A, B, C, A prime, C prime, B prime, A double prime. Now look at the bookends. Christ initiates the sequence as an angel bringing the eternal gospel at point A, and then he closes the mirrored sequence by calling for the harvest at point A double prime. And what sits dead center? The Son of Man reaping the wheat. His prophetic work is placed precisely at the structural heartbeat of the text. It's like a giant puzzle clicking into perfect place.
And the significance of this central prophetic role, it is staggering. In Revelation chapter 10, an incredible 11 verses are dedicated entirely to describing the central other strong angel. That is by far the most textual real estate given to any angelic figure in the entire book.
And here is why that matters so much. This central angel is the structural anchor. This single figure manifests all the characteristics that are normally distributed across the other angels. He holds a book, he orders sealing, he possesses Pentecostal fire and stands in mid-heaven. He calls for the end and descends in glory. He literally even commands the land and sea. This central prophetic angel is the undeniable key to the entire sequence.
All right, Section 5, Revelation's deep cherubim structure, the ultimate matrix. For our grand finale, we're going to zoom all the way out. We are going to synthesize these angelic triads with one of the most enigmatic symbols in all of biblical literature, the four ancient faces of the cherubim. As you might know, the cherubim traditionally have four faces: man, ox, eagle, and lion. The source outlines how Revelation's major sections map perfectly to these ancient faces. The seal section represents the ox. It's sacrificial and priestly. The trumpet section represents the eagle, flying in mid-heaven, which is prophetic. And the libation bowl section represents the lion, a kingly role that climaxes with the marriage to the king. That leaves the face of the man, which covers the opening chapters, representing the new creation.
But let's take it one step deeper, because this is where it gets wild. If we overlap this cherubim structure with the ancient Levitical liturgical feasts, we reveal Revelation's ultimate deep structure matrix. It flawlessly matches the cherubim faces with the liturgical calendar. The eagle pairs with Pentecost. The lion pairs with atonement. Furthermore, these align perfectly with the chronological actions of the angels we just decoded. The ascending angel matches the ox and firstfruits. The fire angel matches the eagle and Pentecost. The book isn't some random apocalyptic chaos. It is a highly engineered, overlapping matrix of ancient symbols.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound final thought. The source material notes that Revelation correlates the destruction of Jerusalem, Babylon, with the biblical destruction of Sodom, framing this as a dual work of the divine Redeemer during Christ's first coming. When we look at the overwhelming evidence of this beautifully mirrored architectural matrix, built on triads, priestly roles, and cherubim faces, we really have to ask, does decoding Revelation as a perfectly structured matrix tied to Christ's first coming fundamentally change everything about how we read this ancient mystery? I'm going to let you ponder that one. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking for those deeper structures.